folks, and welcome to Gersnet, the independent Rangers podcast made by fans for fans, where all your content is absolutely free, coming to you in association with Forrest Precision Engineering and Football Prizes. My name's Alec. I'll be your host this evening, Friday the 3rd of May 2024, for episode 333 of the Gersnet Podcast, 333. That's only half of 666, so we'll just be a wee bit evil tonight as we ask why the god of fitness has yet again forsaken us with today's revelation about Connor Goldson. We'll wonder if we're due money back in that Masonic conspiracy, as even the SFA admits VAR is devoutly Catholic. And before looking ahead to Sunday's critical league clash with the Ayrshire Killie boys, I'll get proper devilish by asking if Cyril Dessers is currently having all of Ali McCoy's playing seasons in one campaign. Before I introduce my guest for tonight, I need to give another mention to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a Glasgow-based engineering company who've been a big commercial supporter for Rangers for a number of years, and we're delighted to have them supporting the pod. If you want more information about them, please visit their website at www.forrestprecisioneng.com. They also have a stunning executive lounge in the Ibrox main stand, and for more information on that, it's a beautiful, intimate space. Email the club at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. That tune we played at the beginning, that was Ditch Digging by the Jingle Punks, and that would have been even lovelier if we could have had some beautiful lyrics, some beautiful vocals on that, as per Mr. Chris McClure. Christian, just want to give him a shout, an absolute legend of Scottish entertainment. Maybe I've shown my age here, but I certainly remember him all over our television, and the days when the Scottish club scene was nothing to do with going to Ibiza or anything like that. A man who worked all his days, passed away at the beginning of the week at the age of 80. And just want to pass on our condolences to Christian's family, an absolute legend of the Scottish entertainment scene, lost to us. Now, on to happier stuff. We're guest for this evening. Absolutely delighted to say I've got Rob Fawcett with us. Thanks very much for joining us, Rob. How are you doing, sir? You got a holiday weekend?
Yep, although I've got to do a bit of work on Monday, unfortunately, because I've started a new job. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back to Ibrox. That's probably going to be the highlight of the weekend, I think, because it seems to be a while before we've been there.
I hope so. We all hope that, don't we? We hope it's the highlight of the weekend. If the work on the Monday's better, then we know we're in a bad state. Yeah, I think the last time we were on, Rob, you were saying you're a bit of a Star Wars fan. Is this just I think tomorrow, May the 4th be with you? Is that going to be a thing for you?
Exactly, it will be. I'll be sitting down, probably watching either The Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, and celebrating a little bit. As you can see behind me, I'm a bit of a geek, so I thought I'd take the flag down and show off the Star Wars stuff tonight.
No, I mean, you know me, mate. If you've listened to any of the pods I've been on, I can't stand people who go on about the same film all the time. It's really, really boring. You know what I mean? So I'm going to start off, Rob. I'm just going to expand in the little introduction there. Maybe the hardest question you can ask a Rangers fan just now is also somehow the easiest one and the most obvious one. How are you feeling right now about Rangers, about the season? There's been so much. We've got a squad decimated by injuries. Yeah, a lot of our fans have already decided that the players have bottled it. Yeah, we're in our second major cup final of the season. We're 3 points off the top of the league. Just 5 games left in the campaign. We've got a power to win our first treble in 21 years. But the players are clearly going through a really bad run of form just now. Do you feel we're in the cusp of greatness, or do you just want the season over with to start and rebuild?
I'm probably going to sit in the fence in this one, mate, to be honest, because I'm probably somewhere in the middle. And I think we've got to remember where we came from to some respects. You know, when Kilmarnock came in and took over, the season was dead and buried. You know, there was no way that anybody thought we were going to be in a title race in the position that we are, where, you know, we've still got the chance to win a league, and we're the only club in Scotland that does get the opportunity to try and win a treble. I think the frustration comes from all that hard work being undone by what looks on the face of it a couple of pretty gutless performances. You know, because the team hasn't looked like it's had that same desire and hunger that it has had since Kilmarnock came in. And I think, you know, when you're looking at a young right back that we signed who's played in right wing, left back, left wing, centre mid, you know, being talked about as being the saviour of the team in midfield, it demonstrates just how light a squad I think we've got at the moment. And, you know, we've won a cup. We're in the final of the other cup in Scotland. we've still got it in our own hands. I think it's just tinged with a little bit of disappointment that the game at Ibrox against them, I felt we needed to go and win just to get over that mental hurdle of, not getting a result against them when the chips are down. And I think that's probably just fired or fueled the fire in a lot of us, where we think, oh, here we go, it's the same bloody story again. These players are just going to let us down. Now, we remember titles that have been won on the last day of the season. So until it's mathematically impossible, I'm not going to sit here and say we've not got a chance to win the league. I think the momentum has shifted, definitely. But, if we don't think we can win the league, then what's the point in turning up on Sunday to cheer the team on against Kilmarnock? We've got to get behind the team and give them a backing. It might not be pretty, as the last couple of games have shown us, but if we can dig wins out, and that will hopefully help us towards the end of the season. And I have no doubt there's going to be a couple of wee twists in here. We're going to be relying on them dropping some points, but that isn't out with the realms of possibility the way they've been playing this season either. So I think there's cautiously optimistic, as I always will be. Still love Rangers and the club. Frustrated at it and the players because of what's happened and thrown away the good work that has been done since Kilmarnock has come in. But we're still fighting. We're still in with a chance. And all we need to do is win games. It doesn't matter how. Roll the sleeves up, get the fire going and just bloody win.
That's absolutely right, Roy. Like you're talking about the game against Celtic at Ibrox, we kind of let them off the hook. And if it's not a contradiction in terms, I think that the second half of that game is the last time we kind of performed. If you can call performing for one half any kind of performance. We beat them 3-1 in the second half, I think. But our form says draw, loss, draw, win, win. So if we hope, certainly that the nadir was Dingwall when we lost that game up at Ross County. Summing up what we're talking about here, are we actually finding our way back to some sort of form? Painful as it is, that was horrendously painful, particularly Paisley last Sunday. It was torture watching that game. Or are we just kind of delaying the inevitable crash and burn?
I don't know if we're playing our way into form at the moment. I think the fact that we've won 2 games in a row is a good positive sign. The litmus test is going to be how we play on Sunday. Because ultimately Killie are the second form team in the league at the moment. The last 6 games they've won 3, drawn 3, and they're only 1 point behind Celtic in the table. From that point of view, they're not going to be an easy game at Ibrox. McInnes is going to set them up. So, while we can look at the previous games, it comes down to what Clement's been saying since he's come in. It's just all about the next 3 points. So while the results at Ross County was just God knows what happened there. Dundee was still disappointing. The fact that we've managed to get wins in the last 2, and St Mirren's not exactly an easy place to go because Robinson have set his team up quite well. It does point that we are beginning to get in the right direction. I think fans just want to see that bit between the teeth. That going in. And doing the dirty stuff in the game, which is what's been missing, I think, in the last couple. And as long as we start to see that, coupled with continuing to win games, it can only be a good thing, and we can hopefully then start to play our way into a bit of form.
In talking of that, I want to talk about our blue-eyed boy, Cyril Dessers, and he really does have quite piercing blue eyes. I'm not going to say I'm worried about myself. There's nothing wrong with a man loving another man, but I'm definitely starting to find him really attractive. Funnily enough, it's just been over the last couple of Sundays. I don't know why. Not that I'm fickle or anything, but Cyril Dessers hasn't just scored match winners the last 2 Sundays, but he's come out with some kind of memorable one-liners in the post-match pressers for both of those games. He's talking about after the couple of goals he got at Hampden against Hearts, he's talking about it's been a hard but beautiful club to play for. And then last Sunday he was saying, I'm maybe not always the most beautiful striker in the eye, but it's easy to see what's not there. We can argue about his ability, but in terms of his character, do you think he sounds like a born Ranger? Like he understands what you've got to do to be a Rangers player?
I think there's no doubt in that. The big man gets it, and I think this is where I find myself really frustrated sometimes with our fan base, that you've got a guy who never hides when he's on the pitch, who will give 100% effort. He might not have the quality that some of the number 9s and strikers that have played for Rangers before him have had, but he never hides. He's always in that position. He's contributed a hell of a lot more to this season than some of the other players that are stepping on the pitch and get away with no criticism. So for me, as soon as that window was shut in January, we should be backing and getting behind this guy, because ultimately he's the only bloody number 9 we've got at the moment that is fit. Roof's coming back, and we know what he's like. Sometimes he's like a chocolate teapot, brilliant striker on his day, but is so fragile that you can't really count on him to play 90 minutes consistently. And Dessers has had to take on his majority of the workload for that. And naturally, you listen to what Clement said at the start of his reign about the fitness that the players had. If that hasn't been done from pre-season and in the early stages of the season, it's natural that they're going to start to tire towards the end, because the minutes and the fitness levels aren't going to be there. I've seen games where he's been trying to press 3 defenders himself, and he just runs himself into the ground for the team. So how, as a fan, you can be disappointed in that? I really struggle to see that. Now, granted, he's missed a couple of big chances in games. What striker hasn't done that at Rangers? All the strikers that we've had have probably been guilty of big missed chances in games. Ultimately, he's scored 20 goals. I think he's got 10 assists. He's popped up, and the contribution that he's made this season, we wouldn't have clawed ourselves back into the race if it wasn't for his contribution and the rest of the team. So I think the criticism that he gets, is a bit over the top. He's never going to be anybody's quality number 9 banker of you'll start every game. But as a squad player, and somebody who has the right ethic, work ethic and attitude as a player, absolutely. I'd love more of the players to have his kind of attitude and his approach to football, because we wouldn't be sitting here talking about throwing away the potential 5-point lead that we had. We would have seen out the game in Dingwall. We would have beaten Dundee, and we'd be sitting going into this game knowing that we had a bit of the game against them at Parkhead, knowing that we had a bit of a cushion, that it was a bit of a free hit for us. So I think we've got to be careful what we wish for, because I see a lot of people saying they want to get rid of him in the summer. There's no guarantee that a replacement is going to come in and do what he's done, put the effort in. And the fact that he's done that, not had a really good, in our terms, not had a great season, but has still contributed massively to the team. I don't know how many other players could handle, we've seen Lammers. He couldn't handle the jersey. He's in Holland scoring goals because he's got the pressure off him and the expectation is there. Dessers seems to love it. He gets the club. He knows it's a difficult place to play, but he embraces it. And that, for me, is worth its weight in gold at the moment, because there's players in that team that you can see are getting into their old habits of maybe dropping a bit deeper than they should be doing from midfield. This guy's no hiding. He might miss a chance, but he's no hiding.
I think there's definitely games I've got to be really careful, because I think Dessers is the one. I'm always keen to pick a line with a player, and I'll only change it. As the facts change, my opinion will change. That's the way I like to think of myself. But it's complete garbage. I'm as hypocritical as the next guy, and Dessers was definitely, especially after the game up at Dingwall, he doesn't put away those 2 chances. And I think his line about he's sometimes not the most beautiful player to watch, the way he plays. I think that misses. I think sometimes the goals he scores, a lot of them are so beautiful. Now, he's got for the start, he's got the goal against Servette at Ibrox, but it's practically hit off him on the line. That's all about positioning. That's fantastic. The goal last week, right place, right time, classic striker stuff. Nothing too spectacular from his point of view, but the soft shoe shuffle stuff against Hibs, home and away. I think he did the same against Morton, that League Cup game. Some of the goals he's got, but it's when he's clean through on goal. Suddenly he gets chewed up by the grass. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. But when he says we're sometimes too keen to see what's not there, I think, first of all, talking about when he talks about the Rangers being a hard club to play for, but a beautiful club, I think there's a wee signal there. I don't know if you agree with it. he's trying to say, let's not let the hard side of Rangers, where I think we see Rangers players, we definitely stress test them. Mm-hmm. You know, you see Rangers players either growing a new skin, like in a Tefal level of skin, or losing a layer of skin, and they're just playing like an open wound, and you know it's all over for them. We are very, very hard on our players, but Dessers understands that instinctively. I think he's trying to say overall, let's not be too hard. Mm-hmm. We've not got that lead in the league that we expected to have, you know, and I think it's a fantastic attitude, and I think it's one that the thing that I love most about it is it instinctively understands the club. We've got like John Gregg, greatest ever Ranger, grew up a Jambo. Stephen Gerrard, I thought, was an instinctive Ranger. He had that character. He just knew exactly what was required. He loved us, we loved him, because it was a kind of match made in heaven. So I don't think it's all about somebody who's grew up in the west of Scotland or anything like that. There's plenty of examples of that. But I think Desser's one of the guys that gets it. So, cheeky wee question there. Are you cashing in the summer, or are you sticking with them?
Personally, it depends on where we really need to strengthen, first of all, because I think we can see that there's going to be a rebuild. Unfortunately, we've not got many sellable assets. Now, if he's coming off the back of a 20-goal season, 10 assists, he's the type of player that you might get a bit of a small profit on from a club in Europe. I would be disappointed to see him go, because, again, I was one of the guys, rightly or wrongly, that was disappointed to see Sakala go at the start of this season, because I felt we would struggle to replace the numbers that he gave the team. And I think, certainly from those wide players, that we've needed more contribution from those positions, same apart. So it's a bit of a difficult one. My gut would say keep him, because I think as a squad player, he's the type of guy you want in the team because of his attitude, of his effort, the fact that he will run himself into the ground for the team. And if that type of character can rub off on a better quality striker, then you're going to have the best of both worlds. I think, just to touch on the point you made about the hard but beautiful club to play for, I think if you listen to Clement since he's come in as well, he's always talked about rebuilding the relationship between the team and the fans. I think that's really important as we get into the business end of the season, because while we might be frustrated with some of these players and really upset by them, when you step into that stadium, the clues in the title of what we are, supporters. I think we need to be getting behind the team rather than booing or groaning at a misplaced pass. But the players have got a job to do themselves. If they don't show that base level of desire and hunger, that's only going to fuel that from the fans. So I think, first of all, we need to see that the players are going to be up for it. But equally, I don't think we should be too quick as fans to be booing or to be groaning. This is the time where they need us behind them. And they need that little bit of a boost. And ultimately that could make the difference between us getting 3 points or us taking a point. And we've got a bit of a role to play as fans here as well now. And I think that, as you say, Dessers was kind of cutely just putting that out there to say, we need a bit of help at the moment. We probably know we're not playing as well as we could be playing, but we need you guys behind us. We don't need to be criticised or thrown under the bus at the moment. We just need a wee bit of support because we're desperately trying to get back in it, and we want to win this. We want to win this title for you guys.
Absolutely, I think we're past the point. I think you're quite right what you're saying. I think this is what Dessers is hinting at. We're well past the point now of getting behind the team somehow condoning poor play or players who aren't up to the Rangers standards. I think that's been that's been the message behind a lot of the criticism, a lot of the kind of baiting of our own players by certain sections of the support. I understand that, but we shouldn't accept anything that's below Rangers standards. But we've got to that point where it's just self-defeating. There's 4 league games to go, and you're absolutely right. We should be getting behind them. And talking of other players who may or not be leaving, but definitely won't be available this weekend, Connor Goldson, I think, again sums up Rangers in 2023-2024. Half the support wanted Connor Goldson dropped, but 2 weeks after he was dropped, he gets a season-ending injury in training, as revealed by the manager at today's presser. And I, for one, Rob, I'm feeling it as a bit of a disaster. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think the fact that we're not going to have him for the rest of the season is I mean, I was one of the fans that felt he could have done with maybe a game out just to rest and recover. I think the other thing, this comes back to for us as fans as well. I think we sometimes forget that players are human. Now, I haven't listened to the full podcast that Connor Goldson did, and I know he's received some criticism and some praise for what he said. But the one bit that somebody did point out to me was, I think I'm talking about one of his kids has got the same heart condition that he was diagnosed with. As a parent, that is priority. If that was me, that's what I would be focusing on. No playing a game of football for a club, regardless of how much he loves that club for. And I think sometimes managers have a bit of a duty of care to their players as well. And that might be part of the reason why Clement has pulled him out of the team. Because if he's got that news and he's trying to deal with that as a father and as a family, that takes, regardless of how we feel as fans, that takes priority over everything. And I think that, getting it, for me, I did feel that he was beginning to wane a little bit. Now, whether that is just because things have been playing on his mind or whether it is because he's just out of form, I did feel that he could have done with being taken out of the lineup and Balogun coming in a little bit. I think our best pairing is actually Balogun and Goldson together. And I think it was proven with the performances that we had before Balogun got injured. So I think losing him when you've got to go to Parkhead is a tough one, because regardless of what anybody says about him, he's played 50 plus games average every single season for Rangers. He's been a mainstay in that defence. Now he is a leader. You hear the way players talk about him. You see him on the pitch. We need him. We need him as part of our team, and it's really disappointing he's got injured and he's out now, because that will be gutting for him. But it also weakens us a little bit, I think, because you're now relying on Balogun and Suter, who I know we'll talk about in a wee minute, who I always feel has got a bit of a mistake in him. But it's one of those things now. It's been the story of the season. Just when we're getting other players back, we seem to lose another one.
I did watch that the podcast, and I was talking about it last week. But one of the things I'm not quite sure, I come away thinking is he got two sons, and I think they might both have it. People have been saying that at the time. It's him and his pals sort of kind of back and forth, talking across each other as I'm wanting to do at times. I apologise for that, but it's I think it might actually be two sons that have got the same heart condition. I don't know if it's one or two, but one's obviously enough. And he's talking in that pod, obviously, about how much football means to him. When he found out he had his heart condition when he was at Brighton, it was devastating for him. He just didn't know anything else other than football. He didn't know what he was going to do. And then the pain of the actual operation, it was so extreme that he's basically phoning his girlfriend saying, I want to die. And then he finds out that his son's going through that. I know we can't afford to be, everybody's got their family problems and what have you, but I think like you say, you really got to cut the man some slack and appreciate what he's done for us. You've mentioned it there, Rob. A lot of us felt John Suter could just as easily have been dropped just now. Balogun, I love Big Leon. I think you're right what you're saying. I think him and Goldson probably the best pairing. Leon, though, was left a bit wanting, I think, for St Mirren's goal last week. Are our options in defence now as kind of limited as our options in attack?
Absolutely. I don't think we'll see Davies in there unless, God forbid, we get an injury to Suter or Balogun. And I think you're right. I've watched the St Mirren goal back, and Balogun loses his man a little bit. He then gets bumped off the ball, but equally, you look at that tackle towards the end of the game where he makes a bit of a mistake, but he's got the recovery pace to get back.
Yes.
That's what I think Balogun brings to the team, is that while he might make the odd mistake, he will get back. And I think in the second half he started to be far more aggressive as the balls were played into the striker, just like Gogic was being. I thought Gogic was brilliant last week for St Mirren, but Balogun was then starting to be aggressive like that in the tackle, and that's what we missed. We missed that pushing up and not giving their strikers a bit of time to just receive the ball and bring midfield into it. So, I love Big Balogun. I think I just wish he was probably a couple of years younger, but he could be a Nigerian Davy Weir. So we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see how the season goes. But I think he brings I don't know if he just brings a calmness to Goldson next to him, because Goldson I think Goldson's better when he's playing with a partner he can trust. And I don't know if Davies or Suter has ever gathered that trust with him. So I might be making excuses for Goldson here, but I certainly think the two of them are more solid. Suter has done well this season. Don't get me wrong. I think start of the season he'd made a couple of errors. I thought certainly against Killie at the start of the season, but he's come in. He's performed well. We just again, like I'm saying it, we just got to get. It's the only option we've got. So we've got to get behind him, and hopefully him and Balogun can strike up a good partnership in the last few games to contribute to the clean sheet success that the team has had in the early part of the season, or the mid part of the season. But come on,
we've still got the best defence in the league, and it's overlooked. But the manager, Clement, as always, try to put a positive spin on it. He's saying Goldson wants to be in the dressing room for the run-in. He also reminded us that Connor has had almost no pre-season. Along with what we're talking about with that podcast, we're talking about his son's heart condition. Is this another instance like Dessler's comments about the fans need to appreciate how well this squad has done to carve out even a chance of a treble?
Absolutely. I mean, I think given the run we went on, given how the majority of the fan base probably got caught up about the opportunity to go 5 points clear, etc. It's just been a bit of a disappointment that we haven't quite managed to follow through on it. But if I always say, if you look at the comparison of the feeling amongst the fans pre-Clement and post-Clement, it's night and day, absolutely night and day where we were. And the fact that we managed to eke out even some of the performances we have with this squad is nigh on remarkable. I think you're right about what you say from a fitness point of view, because I definitely think that if you listen to past Rangers players and even past players talking about how important getting minutes in your legs from a fitness point of view in pre-season is for that latter part of the season, I think you're starting to see what Clement has meant around the where the squad needs to be and where it is, and some of them do look quite tired. And Goldson would be one of those chaps, one of those guys, because there's some games where, I've always felt he's been a fairly strong defender, but he has been bullied in some of these games by strikers that you wouldn't expect to get the better of him. And it doesn't mean that he's a bad player. It just means that he's not playing at the best of his form. That's why, I think Clement taking him out for maybe a game or two was a good thing, to give him a bit of rest and to give him a bit of hunger to win his place back in the team, to show everybody, no, I'm Rangers number one centre-half, and this is why I'm bloody Rangers centre-half number one. But it's unfortunate that he's not going to be able to prove that to us now with the injury. So I think it will be interesting. It's good that he's going to be there in the dressing room, because he's won a title with Rangers, so he knows the ins and outs of what needs to be done. The other thing that I think will be really important is Mr. Ray. He was obviously part of the Helicopter Sunday team, so he'll be able to get that message across to them about this is what this McLeish team done. We won a league title when we were this many points behind with these many games to go. When you're playing for Rangers, you don't give up. You continue to fight until it's mathematically impossible. And I think we'd like to see that type of reaction on Sunday at Ibrox, where regardless of what happens with them, all we need to do is continue to get 3 points, and then we'll see where we end up at the end of the season.
That's exactly where I am. I'm a terrible host because I just can't move this on, because you keep saying things that make me want to talk about, and if you're going to talk about 2005, that's exactly where my head's at just now, Rob. We're talking about the team a lot. And folks, listen, I know we're getting into the realms of happy clapping here. I know the Rangers support always breaks down into happy clappers versus panty wetters. So that reminds me to please, check out the live comment section on our YouTube page. Frankie will be in there just now. Usually having a heart attack because I'm just winding people up by being too positive about really bad players. So please get on there and give Frankie that heart attack tonight. Enjoy yourselves a holiday weekend. But for me, it's the reason the players are kind of slumped is just because of the continual injuries. And like you're talking about, there's no the pre-season in them. You're like trying to, I'm not very good with cars either, but I think it's like they've not had the proper oil change and what have you. And this manager obviously wants just high speed, high power football, and the players just keep breaking down because their engines just don't have the capacity, so to speak. So he's constantly having to rotate the squad, and the guys who do have that capacity, Tav, Goldson up until a couple of weeks ago, Lundstrom, etc., are breaking down constantly. They're running on fumes. But I was talking about this last week, mate. I remember 2005, the build up to Helicopter Sunday, with a really terrible win against Dunfermline, a 1-0 win up at East End Park. Maybe 4 or 5 games to go, and it reminded me so much of that game last week. We then lost at home to Celtic, and it seemed done and dusted. But the following week, we went out there and we battered Aberdeen at Pittodrie in the rain. Dado, the 2 goals, and that, it was scintillating. And I feel as if that's what we need on Sunday. We need that kind of performance. And just one last bit of happy clapping. If we've got Ross McCausland nominated for the PFA Scotland Young Player of the Year earlier this week. James Tavernier and Jack Butland nominated for the main Player of the Year award. Brian dealt with the kind of nonsense around our own award ceremony, our own Player of the Year last Sunday. It's just, you've got to have these things at some point in the season. So that was that. But if we're the most represented club in the PFA nominations, we must surely be doing something right.
Oh, I think there's, in the whole, and again, I'm only going to talk about since Kilmarnock came in, because I think that has been the most positive thing this season. I think we've finally got a manager who can motivate and inspire the players that are playing for him, which is what we're going to need moving forward, because ultimately they're going to be, we're not going to be buying top shelf finished articles in the summer. We're going to be buying players who are going to need that drive from the manager and advice to be able to improve themselves. But I think we have done well this year. It's, as I keep saying, yes, it's extremely disappointing that we gave up the chance to go 5 points clear. But like you mentioned, we've still got the chance to treble. Now, the only thing that is a negative from that point of view is the team we're up against for that treble, and the mindset of the players against that team. And I think that's the only scar tissue that we've got as fans at the moment, is that, when chips are down, can this team step up and get a result against them? And, as I said earlier, that Ibrox game for me was the first opportunity to do that. I think going into the game at Parkhead, if we can repeat that performance in the second half at Ibrox for the whole game, it would be nice. But it demonstrates that we are capable of beating them, albeit over a half a foot or over 45 minutes. But that's the positive mindset that I like to keep, is that's what I'll focus on. I'll focus on the fact that we came out in the second half, we won at 3-1. Because let's face it, every other fan base in Scotland will beat us up when we're shite. Excuse the French. We shouldn't be willing to add to that as a fan base. And, whether people want to call me a happy clapper or whatever, I'll be critical of players when I feel it's the right time. I'd never boo the team in the stadium, because ultimately that gives ammunition to the people that want to see a club fail. We can do stuff like this and be critical of the players and be critical of the performance and give our opinion. But I think when we let it spill over, it doesn't do the players any good. And from that point of view, the helicopter did change direction in 2005. It could go down to the last day of the season. Wouldn't it be nice to get another title in Edinburgh?
It'll be lovely. And my main hope, one of the other inspirations comes from a Celtic title winning team. I think if we're going to win this league, it'll be the most annoying league title probably win ever. I think it'll annoy half of our fans as much as anybody else. You know what I mean? Because they're so invested in us, don't have any faith in this team. I don't know if it's because there's been a couple of league title wins, not just us, but Celtic in 2016, and then ourselves winning the league unbeaten. And you get Celtic winning all these trebles. I don't know if it's building up a feeling that you can only win the league by blowing everybody out the water all the time and then winning all the other domestic trophies. We're currently reminding me of Wim Janssen's Celtic in 1998, who stopped us doing the 10. They beat us once that season, and we beat them, 2 league games and drew another one, beat them in the Scottish Cup semi as well. But they just kept going. And they stumbled right across the line. And I think the thing that annoys people, like about Tavernier, about Lundstrom, they just keep coming out and performing at the same kind of maybe 7.5% sometimes. Mm-hmm. That's actually ideal in terms of mindset. If you're waiting for the opposition to slip up, you want to make sure you're there to kind of tap it over the line. A bit like Dessler's last week, not a lot of involvement, but when the ball comes into the box and the St. goalkeeper and centre-half crash into each other, you just need somebody there who's cool enough, calm enough, and hasn't given up. Is still concentrating in the bigger picture to nod it over the line, and I'm hoping that's going to apply to the team as a total. And if you're talking happy clapping like I am, the last man you want to talk about Windfall Cup is James Tavernier, but he did say this week he wasn't going to be going to Saudi Arabia, Rob, with or without Conor Golson, as they were both being rumoured to go out and join Steven Gerrard out in Saudi. Do you want to see the captain leave, or do you want to see him stay for his testimonial, or will I ask you again at the end of the season?
So I think that's an end of the season question again, because ultimately, if you were to get 10 plus million for him at the end of the season, given his age, that's a deal that might be able to fund a bit more of the rebuild. I think Tav, I absolutely love him. I think he has been a phenomenal player for Rangers. I think the criticism that's levied at him is a little bit disappointing, because ultimately, it's not his fault that we've relied on a right back to bail us out time and time again in some of the big games. It is the players round about him that have led us to that situation where we've relied on a right back to bail us out time and time again. And I think, on the face of it, people could talk about leadership and defending. Modern fullbacks are more there from an attacking standpoint now than they are from a defensive standpoint. And there's no doubt in his contribution to Rangers. People go on about the amount of penalties that he scored. Some of the goals that I've seen have been funny-looking penalties when they've been crackers for 35 yards. And there's not many right-backs that would have been able to come in to a team like Rangers, perform the way that he has, taking the criticism that he has, and still have comments levied at him that he probably made misguidedly in a club programme years and years ago. He's won a title, he's won a Scottish Cup, he's won a League Cup, and he could be a captain of a treble-winning side this year. For me, I think Tav has been a phenomenal servant to Rangers. I don't think we're going to realise how much we rely on him until he's gone, because ultimately there's 20 goals again this season that he's scored. Who's going to, do we have them across our midfield in an attack that we're going to replace them with? Not a bloody chance. So you're going to have to look at how we replace that, and that's not even counting the assists. Again, who was the man that crossed it in for Dessers at the weekend? Tough. And I think, yeah.
He's kind of sui generis, I think, or sui generis, however you pronounce that Latin phrase. But I think the situation as well, the situation he's found himself in this point in history for Rangers, it's quite unique. I've been unofficial chairman of his testimonial committee for the last 8.5 years, so I'm just hoping I get the gig. He sticks around and he gives me the gig that I deserve. But before we go into talk about the Killie game in more detail and a bit of VAR to make sure we're all properly wound up, let me give a shout out to our friends over at Football Prizes. They are currently running a competition to win an Oscar Cortez signed and framed Rangers shirt. You still have to till Thursday, that's this Thursday the 9th of May, to buy one of the limited number of tickets for that lovely Mayo Blue. And for more information on how to enter that competition, please visit footballprizes.co.uk/product/Cortez. Right, VAR, you're not a real podcast until you've kind of lost a rag about VAR, Rob. So we're told this week that Rangers have been the most maligned club since February in terms of incorrect VAR decisions. The SFA's VAR independent review panel only shared 10 of the 26 mistakes made across the latest period of analysis, but 5 of them had cost Rangers. I can only assume one was the red card not given to Motherwell's Dan Casey for his assault of Ross McCausland at Ibrox in March. Casey, of course, later scoring the winner. That's one of the ones we didn't hear about this week. But our manager today backed VAR, and if the stats are to be believed, only 26 decisions out of 1,181 VAR reviews were incorrect in the top flight so far this season. So why wouldn't he back it? Those figures, do they convince you, Rob, or are you for or against VAR?
I think you need to separate VAR from referees. VAR as technology and as a process I think absolutely is good for the game, because I think it should, in theory, help get the right decision more often than not. I think the problem that we've got in Scotland is that we have just got one of the worst bunch of referees that I can remember in history in the top flight of football. And that has been rubber stamped by UEFA, because there's none of our referees that are going to any of the major tournaments now. Whereas you look back, 10, 15 years ago, there would always be representation there from Scotland from an official standpoint at these major tournaments. Now, one of the things that I will mention is I think the Dujon Sterling red card was one of the decisions that VAR got wrong. Yet that decision was upheld on appeal, which was interesting. That to me just demonstrates that, as a whole, we've got clubs and certain fans of clubs talking about refereeing conspiracies, and everybody's out to get them. I think the only way that this is going to get better for Scottish football is if we all stop playing that card, right? I don't believe for a second there is any form of conspiracy in Scottish football against any club. I just fundamentally believe that all of the referees are absolutely dog shit. and unfortunately, until that changes, we are never going to have a better product on the pitch. We're not going to not be a laughingstock to the English Premier League review boards that they do on bloody Sky Sports and stuff, until there is a way that if somebody in that position makes a mistake, there is a consequence for that mistake. As it stands just now, there isn't. So these referees have got no performance review or success criteria to say that keeps you in this job that you've got as a Grade 1 official in Scotland. There has to be a better way for us to run the game, to make it an overall better package. We can laugh and joke about the amount of money that we make for TV and all that other stuff, but until we fundamentally change that approach, we're never going to get any better. And it's only going to get worse, because I don't see a younger generation of referee coming through that is going to be any better than this lot, because they'll be the ones that are seen as the guiding light. And they're making mistake after mistake after mistake, and they're not man enough to open up and admit that they got a mistake. It's all done behind closed doors, cloak and dagger. If you've got nothing to hide, be open, be transparent. Let us hear the conversations and the decision process that you're making to get to that point, just like they do in rugby and other sports. Because that's, if you've got nothing to hide, you should have nothing to fear from transparency. But as we've seen with the stats that have been released and the mistakes that the fact that they've only released a small section of the mistakes, they obviously have something that they want to hide. And the quality of official isn't going to get better until they can take an honest appraisal and criticism of the performance, and that there's consequences for those mistakes when they're made. So for me, VAR's good.
Step towards us. I think it's a step towards us just now, where they're actually coming out and they're saying, right, this is all the mistakes that we're willing to own up to, if you like, and they're giving you numbers of mistakes. I agree with your main point, which is it's not bent, it's just a bit crap at times, and the thing to stop that is to give referees more of a help, and it's becoming like a kind of an acceptable bigotry. Mainstream media hacks, on Match of the Day, be it Michael Stewart, be it Shearer or whatever on Match of the Day, just steaming in with the most ignorant crap about referees. And you're seeing boys getting, punched out and all that at lower league level, because there's just this acceptable that it's okay to attack refs. And I think you've got to get them full time. Perhaps you've got the technology. Hopefully, is going to get better. But I was quite proud of our manager. I've got to admit, my agenda at the root of all this, we've all got an agenda when it comes to refs. As you say, you've got certain clubs claiming that referees were always against them, and you then have this situation where we'll bring in referees of the referees. Oh no, we don't want that, and I've actually enjoyed it. I think it's been absolutely beautiful to expose that completely. And it's in life, you sometimes just look at who are the people that are for something and who are the people that are against it. And my enemy's enemy tends to be my friend. And I think that the way that Celtic and Celtic media people have been decrying VAR and referees, what have you, lately, just tells me that it must be all right to back them. Let's just keep the
I think the other point to also make on this point, to be fair to referees, is I think the laws of the game are a bit of a joke nowadays as well. You know, the kind of whole handball situation that we've got that seems to be different in Scotland to the rest of the UK from a football standpoint. You know, the slowing down of images to make a tackle look a hell of a lot worse than it is. I think that's where having somebody that's played the game within that VAR setup is potentially a good idea, because they can talk around what a natural position for an arm would be, or what a normal challenge would be. The prime example is Butland against St Mirren. That's never a free kick, never mind a yellow card. It's weird.
I'm glad we've found something we can disagree on finally, Rob. I'm sticking in with you. So I haven't, the terrible level of football I played at, and I saw Frankie doing his thing very publicly about that decision as well, because Frankie, ex-goalie, every time a goalie comes out his box, he is looking to clear out the centre forwards. I am not for a second believing Big Jack. I actually wouldn't want Jack Butland in our team if he didn't know how to swing the hips at the last minute and take out the centre forward. No, I know what you mean. It's really a ropey decision. The thing for me is people are always crying about they want consistency. We want consistency with refereeing. And you're in a situation where you've got 22 athletes on a field, all deliberately trying to do something really different to outfox their opponents. So you never get consistency. The game is about trying to do things differently. So the only way you're going to get consistency in decision-making is by applying a stupid rule. Like they're still working on it with the handball rule, and this is what we're talking about, that they keep changing it to get to a situation where it will work to everybody's satisfaction. But it's like you're eventually going to have to say, look, if it hits your hand, it's a penalty, because that's the only way you can be consistent with something like that. And I've seen like Uruguayan defenders, do that thing where they fall on their backside in the box. Oh, he's fell on his backside. He's just supporting himself as he falls. He did it. He is deliberately handling the ball, because these guys are brilliant at that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's really difficult to manage it so consistently. But I better get us on to Killie. The game in hand. It's 2 years to the day. It will be on Sunday since our best ever night at Ibrox that night against Leipzig. And as I was saying earlier, Rob, I think we need that kind of a momentous feeling back if we're going to win the title. We need to have a game where we just get that buzz on, where we start believing again. The players look they're up for it. As you've been saying yourself, the players look like they're up for it. Killie, 3 wins and 2 draws in the last 5 games. McInnes nominated for manager of the season. I'm almost glad we kind of lost them already at Rugby Park this season, because you feel that any Derek McInnes side has got to take something from you in a campaign. So they've done it already. I'm also glad they're pretty much certain to go no higher or lower than 4th this season. They're kind of fixed in their position in the table. I'm thinking that means they're not as up for it as ourselves, but will that actually let them relax and give us a harder time than if there was actual kind of onus on them to win?
No, I think they'll be up for the game, to be honest with you. Because again, let's face it, Rangers are a scalp. They've beaten Celtic at Parkhead this year. They'll want to beat us here. And I think, and that's their cup final. If they can come here, and especially for McInnes, somebody that's played for the club, somebody that was linked as manager, I think he'll want to go out and set his team up to give us a bit of a bloody nose. So I think for them it comes down to personal pride, and I think the thing that worries me about them, and it was a good bit of analysis done on Twitter by John Walker, is how good they are from set pieces. Ultimately, that's where we seem to be at our weakest, and that's where they're at their strongest. So, this is a game where we can't afford to be giving them daft wee fouls and dangerous areas and allowing them too many chances to swing the ball into the box, because they'll try and take advantage of that. But no, I think they'll be up for it, mate. They'll be wanting to show that they deserve their 4th place and that they are capable of beating both Rangers and Celtic. They took 3 points off as the start of the season. I think it will be a tough game, but ultimately, I think I flip back to when Hearts came to Ibrox and we cuffed them. I would love us to get back to that level of performance, because that is the type of thing that would give us the boost towards the end of the season that we need. And by God, if Mr. Europa League, John Lundstram, could come up on Sunday, that would certainly be a positive spin for the game. Because he's looked anything but Europa League John Lundstram for the last few games.
the best possible way of marking that anniversary. So, $64,000 question. We usually say we can't predict a Clermont team, but it's getting to the stage where there only has 11 fit players left, so it's getting easier. But Danilo and Cortez, their history this season, apparently Matondo and Sima, they're going to be lucky to make the cup final, I think, with the sound of things. Ryan Jack's out. Yilmaz tantalisingly close to making the squad, according to our usually very optimistic manager, so I don't know how much we can read into that. Are we setting up the same as last Sunday in Paisley, kind of hoping the second full week off is going to give us some more energy, or would you change anything, Rob?
I think it comes down to options, mate. I don't know if we've actually got anything that we can really do to change up. I mean, I think the good thing is that we've had that week, so hopefully the players will be able to rest and recover and come into this game a little bit fresher. The only change that you could potentially look at would be dropping Silva and starting McCausland. That might be controversial for some folks, but let's face it, has Silva done anything in the last 2 or 3 games to justify that starting position? And I think had we, had more players fit, I don't think he would be. So I mean, it's a really difficult one, but I think you're not going to change the midfield two from Lundstram and Diomande. Cantwell, I think, has got to play in behind Dessers. Borner's the only option really for left back that we've got, so he's got to start to give us the natural width. And I would, if we can't get Dujon Sterling into midfield, the right wing is a good position for it to be in, because he can, hopefully can win the ball high up the pitch. I think the concern for me is that whatever happens, we've got to be on the front foot. And I think that's been one of the disappointing things in the last few games, is that, Lundstram's fallen into that trap of almost playing as a third centre-back rather than staying in his position in midfield to help Diomande, which has meant that we're getting overrun in that middle of the pitch. So, if we do that with Killie, young Watson, if he's playing on Sunday, could take advantage of that, because I really like him. I think he's a good player. A bit like the boy at Dundee that run us ragged in the middle of the pitch and dominated the middle of the pitch. So, we can't afford to be too lax against them, and whatever team gets picked, as I said at the start, it's all about the desire. Whoever gets picked to step across that white line or onto the pitch has got to be up for it for the first minute, because the last 3 games, 4 games, I think we've started pretty slowly, and within a minute of giving away a goal and a couple of really big chances.
It's unbelievable.
And we can't afford to give a McInnes Killie team a lead at Ibrox.
I think we'd kick off in about 3 of those games. I think it was us that was kicking off. 4 games. See the game against Hearts at Hampden? It's like, we haven't made that mistake in the first minute. Oh my God, we've scored. I think everybody kind of calmed themselves. It was like, we're talking about against Leipzig. When we scored after 5 minutes, having not made a mistake in the first minute against Hearts at Hampden, everybody was going absolutely mental. Then had to calm themselves. Listen, it's a semi-final with Rangers. It's only Hearts. Come on, we need to calm this down. But it was so different from the norm. They've got to get that. They've got to get that start. Do we need Celtic to drop anything tomorrow?
I think obviously it would be nice. I think we're going to need them to drop something at some point. So even if we beat them at Parkhead, we're still probably going to be reliant, because the way that we're playing at the moment, I don't see us outscoring them to get the goal difference back. So you've got to think that we're going to need one of the teams there to do us a favour. They've not exactly been firing all cylinders either. And I think, like you said, I think it's going to be a case of somebody falling over the finish line. And it's just going to be who can hold themselves up long enough to go for that wee stretch for the line before we get there,
I think the difference is they're telling themselves that they're fine. They're struggling against Aberdeen, penalties, they're beating Dundee 2-1. Okay, we drew 0-0 there, but we did paste them 5-0 at Dens earlier in the season. I think Celtic, because of that recent history we're talking about, where they're used to getting the job done, I think they're not seeing the need to kind of buck themselves up, whereas we're constantly telling ourselves we're not good enough. So hopefully we can we can take advantage of that. Look, I better wrap things up, Rob, but Brian Archer would not forgive me if I didn't ask you for a score prediction for Sunday. How are we going to go on?
2-0.
Good man. I'll go 3-1, which just sounds churlish now, but I had 3-1 in mind.
I had 3-1 in mind as well, mate. So regardless, a nice little 2-goal victory.
A 2-goal victory.
Easy. That would be good.
Well, just all about the points just now. I think that'll do us their trips. Myself, Craig and Scott will be back with a couple of post-match reaction pods from outside and inside Ibrox at full time on Sunday. And at 9:30 that night, join Craig, Colin and Stuart on the flagship show live on the Gersnet YouTube channel. I hope you all have a lovely long weekend. I hope the nice weather continues. I hope Rangers' mini revival becomes an explosive return to top form. And I hope Celtic's next shite is a hedgehog called Hearts. All that remains for me to do is thank my outstanding guest, Mr. Rob Fawcett. Thanks a lot, Rob.
Thank you very much for having me, mate. It was a brilliant chat, and thanks to everybody for watching and listening.
Also want to thank Frankie for all his hard work behind the scenes, a one-man production genius, and most of all, I want to thank you folks for your time. Much obliged to you. Good night.